I've been known to handle business, this shit different. Hit the slab at any minute. Hope my people get this message. Around the way, they need a blessing. So I load up with my niggas, we stay rolling. Highways and hedges, peep the signs and pay attention. Keep in order when we operate, you might just wanna listen. Get your point out when we finish. Hope my people get this message when we get to the highways.
We pull up the camp about 2 o'clock. Hop out the whip and shalom to God. Grab all the gear and unload the signs. Let's get this shit cracking, who on the line? And if it's the Sabbath, we short on time. Plus we know Yachty gon' cut a Christian. Cheetah might come asking if we Muslim. Bitch, do you see a bow tie and pies? Like we give a fuck if you about to cry. Your list of deceptions is itemized. Then she gon' ask if we believe in Christ. Yeah, but his name is Yahweh. Man, I can't wait till them chariots swang low. We tryna teach you who they came for. I know that you like to hold hands with the heathen. This is one place that they can't go.
Highways and hedges, highway and hedges,
God, first and foremost, I'm gonna say call halal Yahweh Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai, right? Chief Apostle Yahweh of the Masada. And tonight we're about to go into some scriptures, bro. We about to do that, man. Shalom to everybody who's watching the video. Shalom to everybody who's gonna watch it later. I'm feeling good. I'm super tired. Had a long day at work, put 9-10 hours in, had to do with my kids, went over my lesson again. I'm exhausted, right? But either way, this word, what they say, that the show must go on. The show must go on, man. But yeah, as y'all can see, man, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to share the video. Super chat if it be on your heart, man. Alms cover a multitude of sins. If it be on your heart, Cash App, Masada DTX. I got it pinned in the chat right here. If it be on your heart, like I said earlier, charity covers a multitude of sins. How y'all doing, man? How y'all doing, man? Because I'm tired. I'm free. Just a whole lot of that, right? Not just physically tired. I'm just tired of the way the world is currently, right? Tired of the way things are just going. I'm tired of our people, right? To a degree. I'm tired of the way we reason with each other. I'm tired of the way we look at the Bible, right? A lot of us, this word is optional, right? A lot of us, this thing of ours, y'all turn it into a cult, really. And what I mean by a cult, I really mean Christianity. It's when I first woke up to being an Israelite, like 9 years ago, like it's nowhere near what it is now. Like I'm just being quite frank with you guys, man. I'm just tired of all of it, and I'm ready to be delivered if it be the Lord's will. And I pray y'all on that same type of mindset, man. But yeah, as y'all can see, the title is Precept Upon Precept, the correct way to understand the Bible, right? Isaiah 28 breakdown. And in the thumbnail, I put, are Hebrew Israelites or Israelites correct on Isaiah 28:10? Spoiler alert, no. No, they're not. Right. And the thing about Isaiah 28 and really 9 through 11, it's incredible. Like the way it's understood by Hebrew Israelites as a vast majority is incredibly wrong. You have to abuse context to even have that type of understanding. And the ironic part about that is y'all use that as a license to abuse context. Right? I saw a Christian say a little, like literally right before I started class, precept upon precept, it basically robs the reader of the writer's intent. And it's crazy. I really agree with that. And I mean that as far as what people do with precept upon precept, like the idea of your understanding of it. If this is your understanding, but most of y'all, it probably is. So let's just go to it real quick. It's sad that I have to agree with the Christian, but I mean, the way a lot of Israelites do, I mean, I can't quite disagree. I can't quite disagree. Yeah, I'm gonna start at 9. Isaiah, is it on screen? Yes, on the screen. Isaiah 28:9. It says, "Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line. Here a little and there a little. For stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people." So the understanding that I'm gonna say it might as well be the same thing, right? Hebrew Israelites do. A lot of Hebrew Israelites, they take this to mean like, okay, I got to get a verse from here, a verse here, a verse from here, verse here, verse here. And what ends up happening is you get context abuse. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you a perfect example. I'm going to go into it tonight. Like Jeremiah 14:2, where it says, Judah mourneth, and they're black unto the ground, right? I'm just paraphrasing it. They take a lot of Hebrew Israelites take this to mean, okay, now this is a color scripture. This means the Jews are black. But that's not what the passage says. That's not what that means literally. It's just not what it means. And the idea and the ideology to even do something like that with the scriptures comes from this misguided attempt of understanding Isaiah chapter 28. That's what that comes from. Deuteronomy 7:3, which we're going to go into a little bit later. They say you can't make marriage with them, so that means you can only marry Israelites. That's not what that says. If you look at the whole context of it. And that ideology comes from your misguided attempt of breaking down Isaiah 28. And the thing about that, when you sit back and read this is really people replying to Jeremiah. Not I keep saying Jeremiah, Isaiah. This is my first time catching the lab. All praises, right? But I was going to say, this is really people replying to Isaiah. And you see that by reading from verse 1 all the way into this point. And the way Hebrew Israelites take it is, I'm just going to just skim through it. Like verse 9, whom shall he teach knowledge? Those who are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. That means like if you're a babe in the truth, right? You got to learn precept upon precept. And it says, with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to his people. Like, I said it, almost did it again. Hebrew Israelites take this to mean now the Bible is going to get translated into English or wherever Israelites are located, and they have a Bible translation in their native tongue. That's what this is talking about. That's not what this is talking about. This is not prescribed text. What I mean by prescription is this isn't the Lord telling you this is how I want you to read the Bible. Because when you look at the word precept right here in the Hebrew, it means a law. It means a commandment. Everything in the Bible is not a commandment, right? Let's give it a perfect example. So in Proverbs, I believe it's 31, it says it's not good for a man to drink wine, or a man shouldn't drink wine. If we took that as law and as commandment, we know Christ, the Hamashiach, the Savior of Israel, right? The King of the Jews, the Redeemer, right? God's only begotten Son, whose mind is the Father's mind, not literally, but they agree, right? He drank wine. Everybody knows that. So what does that mean? If we take everything in the Bible to be a precept or a law or commandment, that means Christ can't be the Messiah because he has a blemish on him. He drank wine. That will be a sin according to you. That would have to be your understanding. If we follow it in a linear way, that would have to be your understanding. Everything in the Bible is not a commandment. So even knowing that, this can't mean that. Break down the Bible, it can't mean that. That's not what that means. And they take this as prescriptive text, meaning, like, I'm just going to say this again because I want to get to verse 13. Hebrew Israelites take this passage, this small passage from 9 to 11, to mean you got to break down the Bible like that. But if you read verse 13, it says, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. So I thought it was prescriptive text. I thought this is the Lord this is the method or formula that you're supposed to follow to understand the Bible. And if it is according to you guys, how do you reconcile verse 13? Like without having to add, without having to be like, well, just some people are going to get confounded. That's not what this means. No, we can't just read verse 10 and we don't have to do all that addition. It just means what it means. You could just context abuse here and there, and then we get here. It doesn't mean, like, we can't do that with the text. We have to be scholastic, being actual Israelites. The word, because I've been on this kick for like a few months. If y'all haven't noticed, if you've been watching me, I always, for some reason, tend to read this passage. Right, if I say Isaiah. Romans 3:1 NLT. It says, then what's the advantage of being a Jew? Is there any value in the ceremony of circumcision? This is making reference to the covenant, not just circumcision, but the covenant revolving around circumcision. The laws that were given unto us, the circumcision, the rights, all of these things, right? What's the advantage of having this, being Jews? So it says, yes, there are great benefits. First of all, the Jews were entrusted with the whole revelation of God, right? We are supposed to be the ones having the whole revelation of God. I say this all the time because I see Hebrew Israelites break down the Bible in a very erroneous way, and there's no reason for that. There's no reason why we shouldn't be looked at as the leading scholars in the world, being Hebrew Israelites. There's no reason why we should be able to be cross-examined, because a Christian, honestly, if a Christian wants to, they could really destroy a lot of Hebrew Israelites, like with Jeremiah 14. Not saying what it says, Deuteronomy 7, and various other places in the Bible that they try to use to context abuse to fit certain narratives and certain doctrines that don't align with the overall message of the Lord. So we should be greater than this. We should actually be the true teachers and having people following us and seeing and acknowledging us as the people who have the breakdown. That's what Paul's saying right here. And this lesson is ultimately a way to like reorient us back into that way, like realign us, get us correct to be rightful dividers of the word. Let's get to Paul saying that. Actually, is it Paul? Yeah, it was Paul. To Timothy, it was First Timothy, 2 Timothy. Where did I write that down? Timothy 2:15. Yeah, so 2 Timothy 2:15, it says, work hard so you can present yourself to God and receive his approval. Be a good worker, one who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly explains the word of truth. That's what we have to do. We have to correctly explain the word of truth. And that requires work. Because what am I saying by this? I'm not saying we shouldn't cross-examine text with other texts in the Bible, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but that should be filtered through the immediate context before we try to say it goes with another scripture with another immediate context. That's what I mean about context abuse. Like what Hebrew Israelites do with Isaiah 28 is ultimately, if you think about it, the way they use it is context abuse. And you're using it as a license to context abuse by context abusing Isaiah 28, because that's not even what it's saying. These are wicked Israelites replying back to Isaiah, right? Just saying the Lord's word is child's work. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's this something children should focus on. We're on to bigger and better things, like how Christians be doing. They're literally doing like what Christians do when we're on the streets. Or your family members who's Christians, when you try to tell them to keep the law and to follow God the correct way, it's, oh, Jesus died, so we don't have to do all that. We're going on to the Spirit. We're moving on with the Spirit. Right? They're doing that same thing, replying to Isaiah, without even having that whole grace and the whole Jesus aspect about it. That's what's actually happening when you read it in context. And we're going to go through all that. But this lesson is for this specifically, being able to correctly explain the word of truth. We can't ignore immediate context. So, and I want to read one more verse before I do that. Because the thing is, the reason why this The reason why that understanding of Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 10 has been prevalent all the way until 2025 is because that's what the elders had. That was their understanding. That was their ability that the Lord gave them. I don't believe Israelites are being intentionally malicious when they have that understanding of Isaiah chapter 28. I don't believe it. Right? I'm not trying to teach that. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not saying that they're just out to deceive. What I'm saying is the ability that our elders had in the One West, the old One West school, all the way up until now. That same ability that they had and the knowledge that they had, it needs to be updated. It needs to be polished, because that's not correct. They didn't have the understanding. They didn't have the tools that we have to break down the Bible like we do. They didn't have the blue letter. They didn't have the easy access to the Hebrew and Greek text. There's so many different things that they didn't have that we have nowadays. So now we can go and just repolish all of this. And that's what's happening today. Like Reform One West theology. That's literally what's happening. Because the core of it, the core of One West theology is really flawless. To be honest, if y'all Christians had anything, y'all would have done it by now, and you haven't. Y'all get you somehow, even with us not having like 100% doctrine, because none of us have 100% doctrine. Even though we don't have that, we're still destroying you from the ground up, right? That's what's happening. But what I want to teach with this lesson, and what I want to be known is, I don't believe people intentionally decided to deceive people with understanding Isaiah 28 and 10 like that. And I believe so because of this verse. So 1 Peter 4 and 11 is, if any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. Like, use the scriptures. It says, if any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which God giveth. And at that time, that's what our elders had. You see, so much fruit came from it, but that doesn't mean their doctrine is bulletproof. But that was the ability which the Lord gave them. Now we have a greater ability. Now knowledge is increased, like how it says in the book of Daniel. Now we have all these tools so we can refine this and make it better. We can make ourselves better. We could cut Christians even deeper and even harder. And all of that comes from building up our foundation in an even greater way. And that's what this is about. It's time to really just repolish and fix a lot of the problems that One West was built on, and start from the ground up. So let's go into this. Isaiah 28. Let's go to this one. So that's over there. Isaiah 28. All right, so let's start in the beginning of this. So I'm going to read verses 1 through 3 to set a precedent, right? So Isaiah 28 and 1 through 3, it says, woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, right? Because they had their sovereignty at this time. It's talking about the northern kingdom specifically. They had their sovereignty at this time. They weren't under captivity currently. But eventually, by reading this, there's a judgment pronounced unto them. It's going into captivity. That's why the Christians who put the Blue Letter Bible app together wrote right here, Ephraim's captivity predicted. That's what this chapter is about. Judgment. That's what's happening. So, woe meaning is destruction. So that's how they're a beautiful flower that's fading. A flower that fades is about to die, right? It's going through its life cycle and it's about to die. Just like when we go into captivity, that's what our death is. That's what our hell is. Our heaven, and I went into this on the streets, and that video is coming out soon. Our heaven and our hell concept, heaven, going to heaven is either rulership and sovereignty. You got the literal skies, and you have where the Most High dwells in, right? When we lose our sovereignty, we're cast unto the earth, meaning we die, meaning we go into captivity, meaning we're in subjection. There's only two positions, like post the covenant being established with Israel and the blood splattered upon them. There's only two positions that Israelite can be in. If we believe in God and we believe in the word, you're either having your sovereignty in your kingdom or you're in captivity. What we see right here is Ephraim deciding to be drunkards. not keep God's law, thinking it's child work, and thinking it's nothing, to where now they have to go into captivity and know that hell and know that death. That's why they're a fading flower at this moment. So I'm gonna keep going. It says, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. They're drunkards. Verse 2. Behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which as a tempest of hell and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with his hand the crown of pride. The drunkards of Ephraim shall be trodden under feet. What does that mean? That means captivity. Also, Shalom Dre. Right, I just seen that because I was looking at the text. But this means captivity. And we know that because there's various other texts and various other chapters in the Bible which mentions the idea of trodden under feet being captivity. And you see it verbatim in Luke chapter 21. Luke 21 and 24. I always go to this. So Luke 21:24, it says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Just to build the context. This is about when the disciples asked Christ what's going to be the end times and the sign of their coming. Before he goes into what's going to happen in our time period, he talks about what's going to happen at 70 AD. This is what's happening at 70 AD all the way up until our point. So it says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down or trodden underfoot of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. The times of the Gentiles being fulfilled is what you see in Daniel chapter 7. When you see the four beasts and you see the little horn, and they prevailed over the Israelites until the time of the Son of Man and the Ancient of Days came. That's the time of the Gentiles being fulfilled, meaning the Israelites will be in captivity from this point all the way until Christ comes back. That's what's happening here. And the terminology that it used while it said they're going to be led captive into all nations is being trodden down. We see something similar to that in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 13. Matthew 5 and 13. It says, ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. So we usually use this a lot. Like, I don't use it this way, but certain Israelites use it to mean like we got the salt, like we got the flavor, we do all these things. But this is ultimately going into our wisdom. And we can understand that by just looking at the context of everything that's happening in this verse. He's talking to Jews. We are the salts of the earth. What do the Jews have, or the Israelites have, that everybody else doesn't have? The covenant. This is what our actual salt is. We have the covenant. But if we've lost that, if we've fallen from that, we're good for nothing. Why? Because that's what makes us a holy nation. You have nation or Gentile, right? But we're a holy Gentile, right? We're a holy nation. If we decide to depart from our holiness, the thing that makes us separate from everybody else, we're just like the rest of the Gentiles. It's good for nothing. And it says, it is thenceforth, King's English is crazy, thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. So part of the curses you see in Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy chapter 28, we would depart from our land. We'll be kicked out of our land and a sword will be sent after us. We saw that same thing in Luke chapter 21. And it says we're going to be trodden under foot of men. Somebody's going to rule over you. So this type of verbiage and this type of context is making reference to captivity when we depart away from our commandments. And really, honestly, just real quick, this sidebar, to prove this is really talking about our commandments, is ye are the light of the world. What is that? What is that? Right? That's talking about the commandments. Everybody precept, where they call it precepting, right? Because a precept really is just a law. This is a correlating verse with Proverbs chapter 6 about how the law is the light. It says, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they might see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Making reference to Deuteronomy 4 and 5, right? These laws, statutes, commandments separate us from other people, and people will see your good works and glorify the Father. Because you see that same thing in Deuteronomy 4 and 5, where it says the nations will see, oh, this is a wise and understanding people. What nation is so close unto God or nigh unto God? Right? And not just the other nations, but our own people who are in wickedness. That's why we're set out to be an example to Israel on the streets. When we're on the streets and people are seeing us keeping the commandments, you have certain of our people who will acknowledge and be like, okay, you guys are doing something good. I've had so many times we've been talking to people, like when somebody said we're evil, it usually happens every time somebody say we're evil or we're wicked. Somebody walks around the street and says, y'all are doing a good job, man. We need more people out here doing the same thing. That's what this looks like. It happens every single time. But yeah, that's what that verbiage means. So going back into Isaiah 28, because we're going to break it down. We're not about to just say words and it just means what I said it means. We're going to break things down. So going back into Isaiah, let's just read it from the top again. It says, woe, just to catch up. Isaiah 28:1, it says, woe or destruction to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine, they're drunkards. Behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which as a tempest of hell and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with the hand. The crowd of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim, shall be trodden underfoot. Captivity, right? So, verse 4, and this is the crazy thing that I really ultimately love about the Father, right? Because we see in verses 1 through 3 a condemnation, right? You guys, the northern kingdom, Assyria's about to come and take your ass into captivity, and that's about to be it for you, right? You see in Jeremiah 3 where it talks about the Lord gave the northern kingdom a bill of divorce. But the crazy thing about all the condemnation the northern kingdom got, even in this chapter, the Lord prophesies about them having restoration. That's the cool thing about God. Like, even though, like, when they want to talk about God is love, Christians want to say God is love, God is love. What that ultimately means is he's going to respect his covenant. He's going to respect his words about this nation, right? This holy nation of God is supposed to have the Nile to the Euphrates. They're supposed to be established above everybody. They're going to be my chosen people to guide the nations upon their restoration. Since the Lord loves his people so much, and he has to be true towards his word, he's going to prophesy about a time of restoration, even in the midst of condemning his people. And that's what's happening right here when we start at verse 4. So watch this. It says, verse 4, and the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower, as the hasty fruit before the summer, which when he looketh upon it, seeth, while it is yet in his hand, he eateth it up. In that day shall the Lord of hosts be a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty unto the residue of the people, and for a spirit of judgment to him that sitteth in judgment, and for strength to them that turn battle to the gate. Right now, it says turn battle to the gate. It means turn battle from the gate. When you look at other translations right here, like NLT, matter of fact, let's look at the New King James. This is, and for strength to those who turn back the battle at the gate. He that giveth great courage to their warriors who stand at the gates, right? Who turn back battle at the gate. That's what's going on right here. The only time that's going to take place is when we're established, when we've been restored. This is talking about specifically a time of restoration. The only time you see that happening to Israel is when they're delivered from captivity, and not like delivered like you see in the book of Nahum, not Nahum, Nehemiah, right? You see Nehemiah 9 where our people committed great provocations against the Lord, and he delivered us out of captivity, and the cycle just kept going on and on and on and on. Or like you see in Judges, right? Continuous captivities through various different peoples. We're talking about, and what this is talking about is that ultimate restoration where Israel doesn't have to deal with war or people taking over their nation ever again. We see that time in Isaiah 2. Isaiah 2, starting at verse 2. It says, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. That hasn't happened yet. This is a future prophecy. It says, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Now you see why it says many people. These aren't Israelites. These are all nations are coming to the land of Israel to learn of the law. I thought the law was done away with, but that's neither here nor there. But but they're coming to learn of the law. You see why it says, you notice how it doesn't mention Israelites have to get taught of the law? Because at this time they will be under the new covenant. Upon the new covenant, like you see in Jeremiah 31 and 31, right? And Hebrews chapter 8, verse 8, Israel, once they're part on the new covenant, they don't have to try to keep the laws anymore. The laws are already like inside of their brains, right? We'll be forced to keep the commandments. But this shows you that the heathen won't have that. Because you in the new covenant, you won't have to be forced to know the Lord any longer. You shall all know the Lord from the least unto the greatest. But we see right here other nations not knowing the Lord and having to come and learn from him, meaning they don't have the new covenant in the end times, or the restoration era, whatever you want to call it, right? So verse 3, and this is the point. Actually, 3 and 4 is the point. And many people shall go. Matter of fact, no. Verse 4 is the point. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So this hasn't happened yet. Nation will not learn war anymore. You see it. You see back in Isaiah chapter 28, Israel's going to turn back war from their gates. So they will not know war. And in fact, nobody will know war, letting you know the time period, which Isaiah 28 and what was that verse? I believe it's 3 through, it might be 4 through 6. And let you know what time period that takes place in, Restoration Age. And we see more prophecies speak about that thing in Ezekiel 34, and I wrote that down. 34:25. So Ezekiel 34:25, it says, and I will make a covenant of peace with them, and will cause evil beasts to cease out of the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. Right? Ultimately, what this means is we won't be prey, like how it says in verse 28, and they shall no more be a prey to the heathen. Neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. No nation can take us over any longer. This is talking about a restoration age or era. One more. I want to go back to Isaiah 28 real fast, and then I want to hit a direct precept about what that's talking about. I think it's verse 5. Verse 5. In that day shall the Lord of hosts be a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty unto the residue of his people. That's what we just read. That's what we started spinning off with these precepts with. So this is talked about again in Isaiah 62. Verbatim. So Isaiah 62 and 1. For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. Right? That's us being light to the Gentiles. Verse 2, and the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, because they're not going to be saved, and they're not going to receive the light. Right? And the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all kings thy glory, and thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name. Is really ultimately going to us being not guilty, or us being justified again. Right? Verse 3, thou shalt also be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy God. Telling you which time period it takes place in. Restoration. It keeps on going. Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken, neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate, but thou shalt be called Hephzibah, and thy land Beulah, for the Lord delighteth in thee, and thy land shall be married. For as a young man marrieth a virgin, so shall thy sons marry thee, and as a bridegroom rejoice over the bride, so shall thy God rejoice over thee. Now watch this. When you scroll down, this is verse 11. Behold, the Lord hath proclaimed unto the end of the world. Say ye to the daughter of Zion, behold, thy salvation cometh. Not everybody's salvation. Thy salvation cometh. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. And they shall call him the holy people, call them the holy people, the redeemed of the Lord, and thou shalt be called sought out, a city not forsaken. Making direct reference to Isaiah chapter 2 about how all nations are going to come to us and learn from the people of God. This is talking about a restoration age. Just getting precepts, right? So going back into Isaiah 28. Almost there. Okay, verse 7. So Isaiah 28, verse 7, this is, but they also have erred through wine, and through strong drink are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision, and they stumble in judgment. Right? That's talking about our laws. We err in wisdom, err in what did it say? Err in, where did I get that at? The err in vision, and they stumble in judgment. That what is our law, statutes, commandments, and our judgments? I said that backwards. What are those things? Our law, ultimately. We've stumbled in those through wine. And what's actually the crazy thing is, watch this. The same verse that I tried to use earlier in Proverbs 31. Watch this. Proverbs 31:4. It said, "It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted." That's what we tend to do when we all become drunkards as a nation. We tend to forget the law, and that's what happened in Isaiah chapter 28. When we get to verse 9 all the way to verse 10. That's what we thought. The Lord's word was nothing. We thought it was just child's. Oh, you got these rules and these structures and things like that. Oh, that's for children, because that's how you would raise up a child, through ideals and structures and through discipline, which the law gave. That's why they thought it was just, this is just for kids. They thought they were above this. They thought they were holier than thou, which is crazy. But it says in verse 8, "For all the tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean." Right. So now we're getting into the part of contention. So verse 9, it says, "Whom shall he teach knowledge? Whom shall he, the Lord," this let you know this isn't the Lord talking right here. "Whom shall he teach knowledge? Whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast." This is them saying this to Isaiah. And the crazy part about this is Christians already know this. This is why when you look into, watch this, when you look into other Bibles, like look in the New King James, it's got quotation marks, right? Look at the NLT, quotation marks. "Who does the Lord think we are?" they asked, right? Who is he trying to teach? The other translations, the people who put together the other and the recent translations, more recent than the King James, they put those quotation marks. We know that's not in the Hebrew. We know quotation marks. That punctuation comes from English, right? That's a recent thing. But they put that in there so the readers can understand these are people talking to Isaiah. So he says, "Who shall he teach knowledge? Whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast." Where it says, "For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little and there a little." Right? This is them saying, like, they're just, this is just law. Every time, like, I'm just gonna give you an example. Every time y'all come around, it's just law, meaning the prophets. Every time y'all come around, it's law, structure, there and then this. That's what they're coming with, right? And that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like to them. All you guys come with is this laws and this and law and that. We want to do what we want to do. That's what's actually happening right here. But watch this. It says, for with stammering, and this is going to prove it too, and with stammering lips and with another tongue will he speak to this people. This is Isaiah's reply to them, right? Because when you look right here for stammering, it means mocking in the Hebrew. Mocking, literally. So the Lord is about to mock this people. This doesn't mean the Bible is going to get translated into English. That's one of the wildest breakdowns I've heard in a minute, right? I heard something in the truth, to be honest. So the Lord's going to mock this people. How is he going to mock this people? Let's show it. Because it says, with another tongue shall he show it. Matter of fact, I'm actually going to spoil it a little bit. When you look into other translations, it elaborates on it just a little bit. Watch this. It says in the NLT, it says, so now God will have to speak to his people through foreign oppressors who speak a strange language. What does that sound like, people? That sounds like captivity. Watch and let's prove it. Right? Because they thought the word of the Lord was child's work. It was nothing. They didn't want to serve the Lord in joyfulness and gladness. What does that sound like? What does that sound like? Watch this. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 47. It says, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And remember this, because this is going to be important later when we get to verse 13. Till he destroyed thee. Watch this. And this is the kicker. Verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Let me say it again for the people in the back. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. This is how the Lord is teaching Israel. Since you didn't want to serve me for everything, for the abundance, like it says in verse 47, the abundance of all things, you're going to work for these oppressors, for the want of everything. If you need something, food, clothing, water, you have to go to them. And when that happens, you're not even going to understand what they're saying. Even if you wanted to plead to them, they can't understand you and you can't understand them. But they're going to take your ass into captivity because you decided not to serve God. That's how the Lord is mocking his people. Those are the stammering lips or the mocking tongue that the Lord's going to do. I spoke all this. So just like how you want to mock my word, I'm going to mock you and send your oppressors, a people who's weaker than you, to rule over you. That's what this is going into. This has nothing to do with prescriptive text of saying this is how you read the Bible. That's not what's happening here. Let's get more precepts to prove this, about how the Lord's going to speak to us through mocking us, through sending our captors. I'm going to hit that one more time. I'm going to hit Isaiah 28 one more time, and then we're going to get another precept, right? It says, for with stammering lips or mocking lips and another tongue will he speak to his people. That's how God's going to speak to us, through captivity and through our oppressors. Let's get some more precepts. So Deuteronomy 30 verse 1 to show how he's going to speak to his people. So we just read in Deuteronomy 28 that this is a curse. Like what we read in verse 47 on to verse, I believe it's 50 or 51, how he's going to send a nation whose tongue we didn't understand to put us into captivity since we didn't want to serve God and we thought his laws were just rules and structures we got to keep. Right? We're going to look upon that, like it says in Deuteronomy 30. Watch this. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, you're going to look upon the curses. You're going to see that a nation brought you into captivity for what you did. Since you mocked God, it's like it says, like Paul said in Galatians, God is not a man he should be mocked. He's like, whatever you sow, you shall reap. Right? After you reaped if you reaped all the evil that's happened to you, you're going to understand why when you look upon the blessings and the curses, i.e. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and Leviticus 26. You're going to see why this happened, and you're going to understand, oh, the Lord's speaking to me by doing this. That's why Daniel said in Daniel chapter 9, the Lord confirmed his words, which he pronounced against the princes and the rulers and the people of Israel, to bring down all these curses. He's speaking to you through that. That's how he's teaching you. That's what's happening in Isaiah 28. So watch this. I'm reading it again from the top. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether the Lord thy God have driven thee, and thou shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart and with all thy soul. So the thing you didn't do, in Isaiah chapter 28, you're now going to do after seeing these heathen who speak a language you don't know, right, taking you into captivity and realizing the reason why this happened is because we've been wicked. That's what's going to happen. That's how he's teaching us. That's how he's speaking to us. Like, people just think, oh, you're going to hear a message, and a lot of Christians, and I feel like Hebrew Israelites do the same thing. You're going to just randomly hear a message from God. No, the thing is, he doesn't have to do that. He told you everything he's going to do to prove him, to make himself be true, and to prove every man to be a liar. And he does that through his prophecies. When you wake up every day and you're stuck in a land called America, and your people are not free, but they think they are. That's the destruction that you saw in Deuteronomy 28. You're going to have a yoke of iron. You're going to have a yoke of iron around your neck until he's destroyed thee. We obviously still exist, so this destruction has to mean something else. It's a mental destruction. And when you see that, like it said in Deuteronomy 30, when you see that, you'll look upon these law, statutes, commandments and start listening to God. That's what the Hebrew Israelites do. Right? The ones that actually, the Israel of God, like Paul talks about, not a spiritual Israelite of another nation. No, the Israel who are actually of God, the ones that follow God, the ones who are the children of God. Why does this dude keep just putting the N word in here? What's up with you, history lies? Like, we get it. Like, like the word nigger, right? In Latin means black. We understand. So, I mean, I don't understand that. So, what was I going to go back to? Oh, yeah. Let's get another precept proving that. So, Jeremiah 2:29. Right? Jeremiah 2:19, rather. Thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backsliding shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy God, and that my fear is not in thee, saith the Lord God of hosts. So that's how he's teaching us. That's how he's speaking to us. Through our captivities, through putting us through captivity. Let's see what the following in there matter. Christian, what are you talking? Are you a Christian? This dude's just saying words, man. You got one more time, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm trying to stay on topic here. So, where was I? Where was that? Let's get one more. Proverbs 1. This is a verse. This is a passage where I always see Hebrew Israelites read. But I'm about to give, like, after what we just read so far, it's about to give so much context. It's about to get so much context through what we've read all the way up until this point. So right here it says, Proverbs 1:20, wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the opening of the gates, and in the city she uttereth her words, saying, how long, ye simple ones, how will ye love simplicity, and ye scorners or scoffers delight in their mourning, and fools hate knowledge. Who was doing that? The prophets was doing that. The prophets was the one out there preaching to the people in the chief places of concourse. How long will y'all decide to be wicked? How long will y'all continue to do this? You know what that sounds like? Isaiah 28. How long will y'all decide to do this? He says, read the depth. I don't care about that definition. You know what? We're doing this, right? We're doing that. We're going to go ahead and sit you down. Like, why would I care about the definition of that right now? Like, what does that have to do with anything? So Proverbs 1 and 23, it says, turn you in my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit upon you, unto you. I will make known my words unto you, because I have called and ye refuse. So remember how it said, real fast, hold up. Because I'm gonna read this, and I'm gonna read this one more time, and I'm gonna read Isaiah 28, and we're gonna come right back to this. So it says, because I've called you, and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. So watch this. Going back to Isaiah 28. What was that? Let's go to 11. Let's see if it's 11. Yeah, for stammering lips with another tongue will he speak to his people, right? So I proved that with the precept. This is talking about it's another nation coming and taking us into captivity, right? So that's how he's mocking you. I want that to just resonate in your head, and that's going to make so much sense when we continue on with this passage. Watch this. So it says, because ye have called and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand and no man regardeth. But ye have set at naught all my counsel and would none of my reproof. So that's the same exact thing that's happening in Isaiah 28 up until this point. Watch this. I will laugh at your calamity. What's our calamity being Israelites? There's only two positions that's crazy. I did that. That's three. There's only two positions you can be in being an Israelite. You're either in your sovereignty in your nation, or you're in captivity. So your calamity has to be what? Captivity. Watch this. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. Why is your fear coming? Because another nation is taking you into captivity. That's what's happening here. Watch this. When your fear cometh as a desolation and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, just like the storm is said in Isaiah chapter 28. He's going to send a storm, a mighty flood, and he's talking about another nation. This is the same thing. It says, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind. When distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me. Deuteronomy 20. Well, this ain't that specifically, because this is, but I will not answer. But I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel. They despise all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. What is that? Captivity. So you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. You have to deal with what you've done. Since you decided as a nation as a whole, right? Since you decided to not fear God and to not keep his ways and not seek the old paths, I'm gonna pull that verse out a little bit later. Seek the old paths. Now you must go into captivity. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. A price has to be paid. So I'm gonna keep going. Verse 32. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whosoever hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and should be quiet from the fear of evil. The only time an Israelite can be quiet from the fear of evil is we've been brought back into our land. That's the only time. Because when you see there are problems, I've said this earlier, right? When the Northern Kingdom went to captivity to the Assyrians, Judah went into captivity to the Babylonians. Then follow that, they had the Persian occupation of Israel. Then you had Hellenism through the Greeks captivity. Then you had the Roman literal captivity. And then you had 70 AD. And ever since then, we've been in captivity. So the only time this can even take place is when we're restored into our land, like the prophecies which we just went into, like really say, like Ezekiel 34, various places in Jeremiah, all of these. So let's continue in Isaiah 23. Not 23, freaking Isaiah 28. So let's go to the next verse. Right, I'm starting 11 and then read it to the next verse. Isaiah 28 and 11. This is, for with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. What does that mean? The the law, statutes, and commandments was supposed to be the thing that gives us the blessings. You see in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1, if we kept and hearkened or listened to God and to keep all of his commandments, we'll be blessed and exalted above everybody. This was supposed to be our rest. And all the things that revolve around the covenant, like this. Genesis, is it 18? Where am I at? Genesis 15, 18, right? Genesis 15, 18, it says, in the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed, which is really ultimately the Israelites, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the Euphrates. I don't know why I said now right there, but I usually say now to the Euphrates, just to be more succinct, right? This is a promise which was supposed to be originally given to Israel. Right? I mean, it technically still is, but it hasn't been fully realized. This is something that we're waiting for. We're patiently waiting for. Right? We have been promised by the only living God an area to live in and to be dwelling in peace. That's something we should have rest in. And that's something we should have rest in, being Israelites nowadays. Right? Let me get another one. Right. Deuteronomy 10, 15. Deuteronomy 10, verse 15. It says, only the Lord had a delight in thy fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. Right? That's the type of rest that we have, that the Lord decided to take this man Abram, take him away from being an idol worshiper, take him away from being from being around his family, to establish him and have a patriarchy of sons that we descend from, to establish us above everybody. That's something we should have rest in, because that establishment of us being above everybody is supposed to be to where the heathen can't even touch us. Wherever the sole of our feet is, that's ours. That's the type of rest we should be in. That's the type of peace we should be in. This is the type of repose we should be in. I'm going to read that in Isaiah. I'm going to get it two more real fast. Isaiah 28, 13, verse 12. Right? I'm going to read this. I'm going to hit this one more time, and then I'm going to get another. I'm going to get two more precepts, actually. Right? It says, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing that they would not hear. Right? So it's really talking about the word. It's supposed to be our refreshing. We see things like that echoed throughout various passages and various prophets. So Jeremiah 6 and 16, it says, thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. The same thing that's happening in Isaiah 28. This is supposed to be rest for our souls. Let me get another one. Psalms 119. Good old Psalms 119. Psalms 119 got everything in it. But Psalms 119 and 165. Great peace have they which love the law, and nothing shall offend them. Right? That's all of this is going into this thing. This entire concept is the peace that we're supposed to have, that's talking about in Isaiah chapter 28 right here, 28 through 12. These law, statutes, and commandments, this word of God, these oracles of God that was committed unto us, is supposed to be the thing that sustains us as a nation. It's supposed to be peace, and it's supposed to keep us in a divine state above the heathen. Because we are the only people who have God, or how is so nigh unto us, that will actually talk to us and deliver us whenever we need it, if we keep our part of the bargain through this covenant. But since we decide not to serve the Lord God in all things, since we just thought the Lord's word is precept upon precept, rule, structure, this has to happen. It says, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. All of these things that it mentioned right here that they're supposed to get because they thought the word was nothing and didn't want to walk after his ways, and everything that entails captivity, taken, right? You see in Deuteronomy chapter 28, it says you should not have no delight in your sons because they shall go into captivity. What does that mean? They're taken into captivity. Snared is a trap. When you think about the word like Egypt or Mizraim, right? When you look at that word, it means between a rock and a hard place. You're trapped in between a rock and a hard place, meaning captivity. That's why Egypt, and you see in Exodus chapter 20, is a similitude to the house of bondage, because it's literally a people who had us in captivity. That name means between a rock and a hard place, Mizraim, or between two straits. And a strait is like you have strait meaning like a river or like an area like that, but you also have strait as meaning like peril or a perilous time, captivity, right? That's the snare part. Broken. Remember I said earlier about Deuteronomy chapter 28, where it says 28 and 48, how you have an iron yoke around your neck until you've been destroyed. And that's not a literal destruction, but a mental destruction. That's how we've been broken. All of these things mean captivity. So this lets you know that this isn't prescriptive text. Isaiah 28 and 9 through 11 is not prescriptive text. This entire chapter revolves around judgment and ultimately restoration at a certain point, and evidence of you leaving your rest and your stability by turning to idols and turning to other gods and turning to just not listening to God. That's what's going on right here. But since Hebrew Israelites have taken this passage in Isaiah 28 verses 9 through 11 to make it prescriptive text, to abuse this context as a license to abuse other contexts, that's why we see bad theology. And I'm going to prove that. So let's go to a very easy one, right? So when we go to Deuteronomy 7 verse 3. Deuteronomy 7 verse 3. Right? It says Deuteronomy 7 verse 3. How many times have we seen Hebrew Israelites pull this verse to say that only Israelites can marry Israelites? Now, am I with this? Because that's not what this verse says at all when we read it in context. But am I saying it's okay to just get with a white woman? No, I'm not. Because I know somebody's gonna clip that. See, Yanni said you can get with all race. No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't prescribe that for nobody. You see what's happening with Shannon Sharp. But that's, I'm not trying to go full Paul Heyman, But you see what happens when you do that. It's a bad thing, right? So I'm gonna read this verse. It says, "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son." So Hebrew Israelites will take this passage to mean, oh, you can't intermarry with other nations. But the thing is, we see Israelites after this marrying other nations. Hell, David's forefathers, David's kids, they married other nations, but specific ones that they could marry. Now, later Israelites break this law, right? But you see people in the Bible who's been recognized as kings come from mixed race relationships between Israelite fathers and non-Israelite mothers. But inside of this passage, it actually explains who are the people, because it says, "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them." Who is the them? Let's start at verse 1. It says, "When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hivites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. When the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them," right? These 7 nations, "nor show mercy with unto them," these 7 nations. "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them," those 7 nations. This has nothing to do with saying you can't intermarry with other nations. This is it. The Lord prescribed. You want to talk about prescriptive text? The Lord prescribed these 7 nations you cannot marry, but that has no bearing on the other nations. Now, I'm going to say again, is that Yachty saying you can get with a white woman who is an Edomite? No. And I will say again, you see what's happening with Unc right now, right? That's my man, Shannon Sharp. And it's just like, I don't believe he did it, right? Because I'm going to be honest, like I've seen this so many times. He just got his big paycheck, right? And now people want to say he did, they've been messing around with the other word too. Violate, right? I don't believe he violated that woman. What was that president? I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Yeah, but I don't believe he did it, right? I think he was just being a very lascivious individual with that woman. Yeah, just like Rob said, simple as that. But my point is, the point I'm trying to make with this, when you see in Deuteronomy right here in 7, Israelites will just take this verse and just spin it off into other BS. And the ideology of why they do that comes from your misguided attempt to break down Isaiah 28. That's why Hebrew Israelites do that. And you know how easy it would be for a Christian to now crucify you right now with that. Is oh, you're saying that? Let's start at verse 1, and it would look bad. And the only reason why the Lord doesn't do that to more Hebrew Israelites is because he doesn't want his truth blemished. I'm gonna be honest, because I'm gonna say it like this. I've said this multiple times throughout the many years of me teaching on the internet. If I was a Christian, it would be bad for a lot of you Hebrew Israelites. It would be very bad. My apologetic channel, I'd be up there right with West Huff. I promise you. I promise you. Just give me like a month. It'll be bad, right? But the thing is, I'm trying to save you guys from that. You know, I'm trying to deliver you from. I'm trying to help deliver you from your enemies, right? You know, instead of Nehemiah 9, the Lord sent us saviors to deliver us from our enemies. I'm trying to do that right now. So let's get another one. Jeremiah 14, just real quick. God, I'm so tired. I remember my freaking estranged ex-wife. I'm gonna say it like that, right? You know, not my current righteous wife, my estranged second wife, right? She said she used Jeremiah 14:2 on her what was it? On her, what was he? A Jehovah's Witness uncle, right? The one's like a Jehovah's Witness pastor. She tried to use this to say that the Jews were black, and he just read up and just daggered her, and she said she was confounded. I was like, you know what? That's hilarious. That is hilarious. But it said Jeremiah 14:2. It says, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. So Hebrew Israelites use this to say the Jews are black because this is a colored scripture. That just, if we just take away trying to understand this, oh my God, bro, Israelites, you got to get the fuck, bro. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be quite honest. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I like to use the part where it says Jews are black unto the ground, say it's a colored scripture. Now, let's think about this for a second. Why, if Jeremiah is also of these people, why would he just randomly say, they're in sadness right now and they're also black, right? When he's also, according to you, a quote unquote black man, that doesn't make any sense logically. Why is that happening here? Like, that makes no sense. But let's just read it and see what's actually going on right here. This is the madness we've been subjected to, right? And the thing is, I don't believe Israelites do this maliciously. Like I said earlier in the very beginning of this, I don't believe they do this maliciously. They just do the precept upon precept method in abused context. Instead of reading things in context, there's better places you can go to show color of Israelites. Like you can go in Acts where it talks about Paul being mistaken as an Egyptian. That obviously was a melanated people before these Arabs even decided to come over and conquest them. You see, I believe it's a Simeon in Acts chapter 13 being called what history lies said, right? They're black, right? You know, they're niger in Latin, meaning black. Like they call him the black man in the NLT version of it. There's various other places you can go. This is not one of those places, right? So let's start at verse 1. So it says Jeremiah 14:1, it says the word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah concerning the dearth. The dearth is a drought, right? That's, you look in other translations, says the same exact thing, right? Droughts, explaining why he's holding back the rain, concerning drought, regarding drought. It's talking about a drought that's happening in Israel, right? So the thing that's happening right here in this time is we're under the curses. That's what's happening right here. We're talking about like during Babylon came destroying our gates, X, Y, Z. We're in mourning because we know why this is happening. We have been wicked. The Lord's holding back the rain because let's do one thing real fast. The Lord's holding back the rain because we were wicked, which is also a curse in Deuteronomy 23, Deuteronomy 28 and 23. It says, and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron, right? Because nothing's going to come through. Like if there's metal above you and there's metal below you, you can't grow anything because the ground is like metal. Like you can't grow on metal, right? And if there's metal above you, the rain can't penetrate to water your land. Drought, right? Verse 24, it says, the Lord shall make the rain of the land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. So that's the drought. What you're reading about in Jeremiah chapter 14 is this: the curses. Dealing with a drought. It says, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof language, they are black unto the ground. The gates are languishing because the gates is making reference to the marketplaces, right? The marketplaces in our agricultural society. Because even in the NLT, when you look at the NLT right here in this verse, it says, Judah wilts, commerce at the city gates grinds to a halt. All the people sit in the ground in mourning, and a great cry rises from Jerusalem, because we're an agricultural people. We had farmland, we had livestock, we did commerce using those different methods. So if there's no rain, and the only thing that's coming from the sky is damn powder, you can't your animals don't have water, so they're going to die. The water isn't going to penetrate the ground so that plants can grow, so the animals can eat. So they're going to die. You're going to die. You're not going to have anything. So you're going to languish. They don't have all the ability and technology that we have now currently. All they had was agricultural. Agriculture. I don't know why I keep saying agricultural, and that I don't know why I keep reflecting it like that. Agriculture. That's what we had. If the Lord shut up the rain, there's nothing we can do. We just languish. And not only that, Babylon came and took us into captivity, freaking destroyed for our gates and knocked those down. We're at a loss. We're at a loss for everything, right? So verse 3, it says, and their nobles have sent their little ones to the waters. They have came to the pits and found no water. They returned with their vessels empty. They were ashamed and confounded and covered their heads, because the ground is chapped, for there was no rain in the earth. The plowmen were ashamed. They covered their heads. Right. And all of that's going. Matter of fact, I'm just going to keep going because verse 7 kind of actually highlights what we've been talking about. Yea, the hind is talking about like a deer. The hind also calved in the field and forsook it because there was no grass. Even the animals were forsaking their children. And the wild asses did stand in the high places. They snuffed up the winds like dragons or hyenas. Their eyes did fail because there was no grass. O Lord, though our iniquities testify against us, do thou it for thy name's sake, for our backslidings are many, we have sinned against thee. So the thing about this is, it's very clear. Our backslidings will reprove us, like we see in Isaiah 28 and Jeremiah chapter 2. What we've done, what we continue to do, and what we still do today as Israelites by breaking the laws of God makes it to where these nations can rule over us. That's how he's speaking to us, that another nation with a different tongue, with a strange language will rule over us. And not only that, at the same time, you have to deal with these curses. Like, you will have to go to him with one of all things. This was crazy. This kind of proves how how everything kind of moves sequentially, right? So you have Babylon here. They have water. They have everything. They have all the things they could ever want. The Lord made it to where we can't even survive over here, so we have to go there. Nothing can, like this place is destitute. It's forsaken because of our sins. All these things are sequential and cyclical. That happen over and over and over and over again. And that's what Jeremiah is really ultimately teaching. Well, this context is teaching it right here. So this has nothing to do with the Jews being black people. This has everything to do about a drought coming upon Israel. All of our commerce grinds to a halt. Our animals die. They're forsaking their own children. We're forsaking our children. Our children are going to go find water and they can't find it because powder is floating around Jerusalem because the Lord made it that way. There will be no rain. This has nothing to do with the Jews being black, and using it will make it to where you get confounded eventually. Like, that's going to happen to you. So let's get I want to touch on strange apparel because I'm so tired of hearing that. My God. Let's get it. Let's get it. Forget it. Let's get it. This verse. I'm so tired of hearing this breakdown. So Zephaniah 1:8, it says, "And it shall come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children and all such as are clothed with strange apparel." Now, Hebrew Israelites will say this is talking about some jeans. This is or cross-dressing, right? Cross-dressing, that'll get you killed too, but specifically jeans on women. This is not talking about that, or fringes on people. This is not talking about that, right? This is talking about people, because when you look in various places in the Bible, you have certain rights. Rights means like things you do, like things like religious rights you do for a God. Like for us, we have to keep law, statutes, and commandments. Here's our dress code. We have to do this. We have to do X, Y, and Z, right? It's the same thing with these other gods, specifically Baal, right? You see that in the beginning of this passage right here, where it talks about where is it at? Yeah, like the remnant of Baal from the place, right? So not only do we see, Bruce Mega, thank the water for your continued support of the ministry, brother. You doing a mighty work. He says, Yasharala, we are free because we believe we don't have a chain on our neck. Oppressor loves us now because he's given us no value enough. Yeah, for real. Stuck on stupid. That's the destruction. That's the destruction. They broke that chain off. Why? Because we are destroyed mentally. We can't even keep the laws without hating each other out here in this land. That's what we had in 2025. Israel can't even keep the laws without hating each other, which is hypocritical as hell. But the water for your gracious and continued support. I'll see you in the chat before. You can continue support of the channel. May the Lord bless you 100-fold, brother. I may turn that. may your paycheck have an extra $300 on it, right? I did the quick math. Yeah. Oh wait, 100-fold, 30. Was that 3K, right? Let's do that. No, matter of fact, no. I'm not about to go out like that. I'm not about to clip me. Where is that at? Times 100. Boom. Yeah, 3K. Yeah, maybe may the Lord have mercy on you and bless you with that, brother. But yeah, but like I was saying, your clothing, the clothing that you see that this is talking about is an allegiance towards a God, right? Because even when like before I talked about religious rights, like how you have the priests have to wear certain things before they come before the Lord. Israel has to wear certain fringe. We have dress codes. We have certain specific divine rights that we have to follow, prescribed by our God. Now, the other nations, when they have their gods, they have divine rights that they have to do. We even see they're not divine, but I mean, hell, I mean that to them they are. So we see in First Kings right here, First Kings 10, where is it at? So I'm not about to go into a whole breakdown about what Jehu's doing right here specifically. I just want to highlight a specific point. So it says in 2 Kings 10 and 18, it says, and Jehu gathered all the people together and said unto them, Ahab served Baal a little, but Jehu shall serve him much. He's really lying. He's being facetious. He's not about to serve Baal. But it says, verse 19, now therefore call unto me all the prophets of Baal and all his servants and all his priests, let none be wanting, for I have a great sacrifice to do to Baal. Whosoever shall be wanting, he shall not live. But Jehu did it subtly, right? To the intent he might destroy the worshipers of Baal. I mean, it's being very clear, right? So he's doing all this. He wanted to bring all the Baal worshippers together, ultimately, so he gets them destroyed by the Father. So verse 20, and Jehu said, proclaim a solemn assembly for Baal, and they proclaimed it. Watch it, because they were an assembly to worship Baal. That's what they're going to do. So watch this, verse 21, and Jehu sent throughout all Israel, and all the worshippers of Baal came, so that there was not a man left that came not, and they came into the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was full from one end to another. Verse 22, and he said unto them that was over the vestry. This is talking about the clothing. I'm going to put it in another translation because vestry is going to confuse people, right? The NLT, I just do New King James, just keeping context. It says, and he said to one in charge of the wardrobe, bring out the vestments for all the worshipers of Baal. So he brought out vestments for them, right? These vestments is part of their rights of serving their gods, Baal specifically, right? Which is going into the allegiance, because these vestments are for the people who are in allegiance with Baal. That's a part of that. Just like how our divine rights are show us how we're in allegiance with the Father, they have those same things. So upon the Lord's arrival on the earth, the day of the Lord, right, he's going to destroy all these people who have a strange garment onto them, a foreign garment, right? And that foreign garment is the allegiance of these other gods. And you can tell by just reading the passage in Zephaniah 1 and 8, right? What was it? The strange. Let me see what the other. I didn't look at the other translation of this either. Yeah, see, look at the NLT. Is on that day, says the Lord, I will punish the leaders and princes of Judah and all those following pagan customs, right? And I think when you look right here for strange apparel, it means foreign, like as in like a foreign person, I believe. Strange. Yeah, Nakari is going into or Nokri is going into like this is a heathen, like a foreign, like the people who is wearing the garment of heathens, right? Which is going into ultimately the allegiance of their gods. That's why I said in the NLT, the people following strange customs. But you can tell by just reading the beginning of this, though. So look at this, Zephaniah 1 and 1. It says, the word of the Lord, which came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushai, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Amariah, and the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah. I will utterly consume all things from off the land, saith the Lord. I will consume man and beast. I will consume the fowls of the heaven and the fishes of the sea and the stumbling blocks with the wicked. And I will cut man from off the land, saith the Lord. Right. It said, I will stretch out my hand upon Judah and upon all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will cut off the remnant of Baal from this place. Right? These are the strange garments and strange apparel that people are in, worship and veneration of a pagan deity called Baal and Baalim, right? The multiple versions of damn Baal that they're serving. This has nothing to do with literal like pants on a woman. This is talking about people who are in allegiance with Baal. Just like how they had clothing and to show their allegiance to Baal, people in those and Israelites in those and following those, the Lord is going to destroy those people. That's what this is doing. It's not a woman wearing damn pants or you not having fringes on. That's crazy. Like, you know, that's and that's the point of this lesson in general. Like when you take when you have the understanding of precept upon precept is a prescriptive text, and you're supposed to read the Bible here a little bit here. This is what that leads to. Like a Christian would destroy. Like if you brought this out and somebody who read, they would actually have some work for you, and it would be very bad for you. That's what this lesson is about. One more, because just because, and I'm so tired of people saying. I remember we was cutting a Christian so bad, and somebody was like, "Yeah, y'all really cut him," but I had to stop watching the video because you had a hat on. Like, you know what, nigga? Good. I can't stand when people like just think they know something, but they really don't. Right? So they go to verses like this. So 1 Corinthians 11:4, every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. So they say if you have a hat on, you're now dishonoring Christ. Now I'm trying to figure something out. If inside of the law, the priests have to minister before the Lord with turbans and mitres or mitres on, that's a headdress. Since when is that now? Because this word dishonor means bring shame. How now, according to the law, the same Hebrew Israelites will pull this verse out, say we have to keep the law. Inside of the law, the Lord commands priests to wear headdresses to present themselves before the Lord. But for some reason, when you have a hat on, now it means you're dishonoring your head. You're bringing shame to Christ. That's stupid. And if this was supposed to be prescriptive for everybody to read, because this also too, right? About me saying Isaiah 28:10 isn't being prescriptive. They take every verse in the Bible to be a law that cannot possibly be for various different reasons, which I've already explained already, right? If that is the case, why did Paul have various churches throughout the area he was sent to, places that went through Hellenism? Why did he only say this to the church of Corinth? So only the church of Corinth should have the breakdown if this is prescriptive? No. Like we gotta, like, that doesn't make sense. We have to use logic. Paul is telling his church, I have a whole video on this, and I'm not about to go into this. I've already been on for almost 2 hours, right? If you want to go watch the video, go watch the video. Like, I had a debate with a brother who thought we should cover it. We thought we were in transgressions for having our heads covered. A fitted cap for somehow blocking the spirit to bringing damn shame on the spirit. If that's the case, no, hold on. I gotta run back to this. Having that type of mindset is a derivative of thinking every law in the Bible every verse in the Bible is a law. This is not a law. This is an ordinance which Paul gave to his church in Corinth, and he makes that very clear in 1 Corinthians 11:2. Now I pray you, brethren, that you remember in all things and keep the ordinances as I deliver them unto you. These are his ordinances or his charges or his bylaws for this specific church, because something that was specifically happening in Corinth at the time. This doesn't mean in 2025 you pick up this epistle and now make it applicable to you. That makes no sense. That's literally context abuse. And if we want to deal with the context, and when we go down to verse 16, It says, if any man seem contentious or somebody wants to argue about the ordinance, what he said, he says this, right? But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither in the churches of God. So this isn't even a custom. This isn't a thing. So, and that's what I mean, right? That's what I mean about the ideology of the precept upon precept thing, right? It all it does is bring context abuse. You have to abuse Isaiah chapter 28 to even have this type of ideology to now give you license to abuse other contexts, like we've seen, like in Deuteronomy 7, like in Jeremiah 14, just like in 1 Corinthians 11 and Zephaniah 1, and various places Hebrew Israelites go to, that if a Christian actually critically examined, you would be in trouble. You literally would be confounded and you would literally bring shame or dishonor on the truth if that happened. That's what this lesson is about rightful division of the Bible. But yeah, man, with that, I mean, I pray you guys are edified. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the video, man. You know, I'm putting this work in for the freaking big fortress behind me, the Masada, right? You know, if you're trying to get down with, if you're in the Dallas area or the San Antonio area, we're in Dallas and San Antonio. If you're trying to get down with Masada, man, drop a comment. I'll tell you which email to hit, because I got like 2 Masada emails. I'm trying to get them together. But, you know, I'm in the comment section. Reply in the comments. If you're trying to get down, if you're in the Dallas area, if you're in Texas, just in general, hit us up, bro. But yeah, man, like I said, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the video. Cash up if you be on your heart. I got a video dropping tomorrow about a freaking rental cop who swears she's a scholar. A rental cop that swears she's a scholar tries to come and confound us. And you know, she came with all this the granny Christian shenanigans, and I wasn't having any of it, right? None of it. That video is dropping tomorrow, man. And part 2 dropping maybe Monday, right? I got another debate coming up, various different things, bro. So just tap in, man. Follow us on IG. Follow me on Facebook, you know, Yadi Masada, IG Yadi Masada. I'll be on there probably playing guitar and other stuff. Yeah, but with that, you know, I'm gonna say Shalom, man. Call on Yahweh Bashem, Mashiach Yahweh Shai, pray y'all edified. Shalom, man.